There are doors in this world you were never meant to open. Doors that don't lead to rooms, but to other lives, other yous. Jake and Lila didn't know that when they stole the silver key. They just wanted answers. But the moment they turned it in that clock tower, the universe ripped open. Now, with every second ticking toward midnight, with a thief bleeding at their feet and a woman with a smile like a knife hunting them, they have to ask, what would you change if you could rewrite one moment? And more terrifying, what if the world changes back? Rain lashed the city as Jake and Lila ran, the key burning a hole in Lila's pocket. Behind them, shadows moved, not following, waiting, because the crossroads doesn't just show you doors. It shows you consequences. Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCar button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land. All right, let's dive into the story. The city of New Haven never slept, but tonight it held its breath. A cold wind slithered between the skyscrapers, carrying the distant wail of sirens and the electric hum of neon signs flickering in the rain-slicked streets. Somewhere in a labyrinth of alleyways, a shadow moved too fast to be human. Lena Voss pressed herself against the brick wall, her chest rising and falling in quick, shallow bursts. The sleek black suit clinging to her body shimmered faintly, reacting to her racing heartbeat. She tilted her head, listening. The rhythmic thud of heavy, mechanical footsteps echoed behind her. Closer now. Too close. Lights off, she whispered, her voice a silken command. The streetlights above her blinked out instantly, plunging the alley into darkness. She didn't wait. She sprinted forward, her boots barely making a sound against the wet pavement. A security camera perched on the corner swiveled toward her. Sleep, she hissed. The camera's red light died, but the thing chasing her didn't stop. It never did. A metallic snarl ripped through the air, followed by the screech of claws dragging against concrete. Lena's breath hitched. She risked a glance over her shoulder, just in time to see the hunter round the corner, its glowing red eyes locking onto her. Damn it! She ducked into a narrow side passage, her fingers brushing the walls as if searching for something. A door. That'd be a door. The hunter's footsteps quickened, its massive frame barely squeezing through the tight space. Lena's pulse roared in her ears. She couldn't outrun it. Not forever. Then she saw it. A rusted metal door with a flickering keypad. She slammed her palm against it. Open. Nothing. Open, open, open. Her voice cracked with desperation. The keypad beeped once. Then the door hissed open just as the hunter lunged. Lena threw herself inside, twisting at the last second to avoid its razor-tipped claws. The door slid shut behind her with a heavy clank. Silence. She exhaled, pressing her forehead against the cold metal. Safe. For now. Then a gun cocked. Who the hell are you? Lena's head snapped up. A man stood in the dim light of the warehouse, his pistol aimed squarely at her chest. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a 5 o'clock shadow and a scar cutting through his eyebrow. His eyes were sharp, calculating, military, she guessed. She raised her hand slowly. I'm not here to hurt you. He didn't lower the gun. That's not an answer. A deafening bang shook the door behind her. The metal dented inward. The man's grip on his gun tightened. What was that? Lena swallowed hard. The thing that's going to kill us both if we don't move. Another crash. The door groaned. The man's jaw clenched. You've got 5 seconds to convince me not to leave you here. Lena met his gaze, her emerald eyes burning with urgency. I can give you answers. About the things they don't tell us. About what's really out there. The door buckled. The man hesitated, then grabbed her arm. Run. Marcus Cole dragged the strange woman through the warehouse, his grip tight around her wrist. Crates and machinery blurred past them as they sprinted toward the back exit. The metallic screeches behind them grew louder. Whatever was chasing her wasn't giving up. You better start talking fast, Marcus growled, shoving open a rusted emergency door. Cold night air hit their faces as they spilled into another alley. What the hell is that thing? Lena yanked her arm free, her breathing ragged. I told you, it's a hunter. Built to track, built to kill. She glanced back at the warehouse, her glowing eyes reflecting the distant neon lights. And it's not alone. Marcus grabbed her shoulder, forcing her to face him. Cut the cryptic crap. Who are you? Why is a damn Terminator after you? She smirked, despite the danger. Terminator? That's cute. A loud crash echoed from inside the warehouse. The hunter was tearing through walls now. Her smirk faded. We need to move. Not until I get answers. Marcus pulled his pistol from its holster, checking the magazine. Start with why machines listen to you. Lena hesitated, then sighed. Fine. Short version? I'm not human. Not entirely. She tapped the sleek black suit clinging to her body. This isn't fabric. It's part of me. And my voice carries weight with technology. Marcus barked out a laugh. Right. So you're an alien. And that thing... He jerked his chin toward the warehouse. You're pissed off X. Worse, Lena said, her voice dropping. It's my replacement. The warehouse wall exploded outward in a shower of concrete and sparks. The hunter emerged, its red eyes scanning the alley until they locked onto Lena. Marcus didn't wait. He fired 3 rounds, each shot hitting dead center in the hunter's chest. The machine barely flinched. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, he muttered. Lena grabbed his arm. Bullets won't stop it, but I know what will. Then do it. She shook her head. I need access to a high-power terminal. Something with serious processing capability. Marcus gritted his teeth. You mean like the city's mainframe? Another metallic snarl cut through the air as the hunter lunged forward. Lena's eyes met Marcus's. Exactly like that. Fantastic. Marcus deadpanned, grabbing her hand again. Let's go commit a felony. They took off running just as the hunter's claws sliced through the space where Lena's head had been. The chase was back on, but this time they had a destination. And if Marcus was right about where the city's mainframe was hidden, they were heading straight into the most heavily guarded building in New Haven. Lena shot him a look as they rounded a corner. You're insane, you know that? Marcus grinned, wild and reckless. Takes one to know one, sweetheart. Behind them, the hunter let out a sound that was almost like a roar, if machines could roar. It wasn't just chasing them anymore. It was furious. The neon glow of downtown New Haven cast jagged shadows across the pavement as Marcus and Lena sprinted toward the towering Obsidian Corporation building. Its mirrored windows reflected the chaos unfolding in the streets below. Police sirens wailed in the distance, but none close enough to help them. Marcus skidded to a stop behind a parked delivery truck, pulling Lena down with him. All right, genius, he panted, wiping sweat from his brow. How exactly are we getting in there? That place has more security than Fort Knox. Lena peeked over the hood, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the building's entrance. Thermal scans, motion sensors, armed guards, and that's just what I can see. She turned to Marcus, a sly smile playing on her lips. Good thing I can talk to machines. Yeah, except for the one currently trying to turn us into scrap metal. Marcus shot back, glancing over his shoulder. The hunter was nowhere in sight. Yet, Lena ignored him, closing her eyes and tilting her head as if listening to something. The service entrance was exactly where Lena said it would be, an unmarked door with a keypad glowing faintly in the dark. She placed her palm against it and whispered, "Open sesame." The door slid open with a quiet hiss. Marcus shook his head as they slipped inside. I swear, if this is a trap, then you'll have the satisfaction of saying, "I told you so" right before we die, Lena quipped, pressing the elevator button. The doors closed just as something heavy slammed against the building's exterior. The elevator shuddered, but began its ascent. Marcus leaned against the wall, catching his breath. Okay, new rule. No more surprises. What aren't you telling me? Lena hesitated, watching the floor numbers climb. Obsidian isn't just a tech company. They've been reverse engineering alien technology for decades. Marcus blinked. Come again. My people crashed here years ago, she continued, her voice low. The survivors were taken apart, studied. I was the only one who escaped. The elevator dinged as it reached the 30th floor. The doors opened to reveal a dimly lit server room. Rows of blinking machines. The dim glow of the streetlights flickered as rain began to patter against the pavement, turning the city into a shimmering maze of reflections. Jake pulled his collar up, shivering against the chill. You sure this is the place? He muttered, eyeing the run-down building with suspicion. Beside him, Lila rolled her eyes, adjusting the strap of her bag. Would I drag you out here in the middle of the night if I wasn't? Trust me, this is where we'll find him. Jake scoffed. Oh yeah, because your hunches have been so reliable lately. Remember the haunted bakery? Lila shot him a glare. That was one time, and the owner was acting weird because you kept asking if his muffins were possessed. Jake laughed, shaking his head. Before Lila could retort, a shadow shifted near the alleyway. A low, gravelly voice cut through the rain. You two done bickering? Or should I come back when you've settled your relationship drama? Jake spun around, his hand instinctively reaching for his pocket. Who's there? A figure stepped into the light, tall, lean, with a smirk that didn't quite reach his cold eyes. Name's Vance. Heard you've been asking about the silver key. Lila stepped forward, undeterred. We need it, and we know you're the one who stole it from the museum last week. Vance chuckled, shaking his head. Bold words for someone standing in my alley. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. What makes you think I'd just hand it over? Jake crossed his arms. Because we know what it really does. And if we know, others will too. You really want the whole city crawling after you. For a moment, Vance's smirk faltered. Then he sighed, rubbing his temples. Fine, but it's going to cost you. Lila groaned. Of course it is. What do you want? Vance's grin returned, wider this time. A favor. One you'll owe me. No questions asked. Jake and Lila exchanged glances. Deal, Jake said finally, extending a hand. Vance shook it, his grip firm. Pleasure doing business. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small, ornate key, its surface etched with strange symbols. Just remember, this thing's more trouble than it's worth. As Vance melted back into the shadows, Lila examined the key, her fingers tracing the grooves. This is it, she whispered. The real deal. Jake frowned. Yeah, and now we owe a criminal favor. What could possibly go wrong? Lila pocketed the key, her eyes gleaming with determination. We'll figure it out. But first, we need to get to the old clock tower before sunrise. Jake groaned. Why does every plan of yours involve running around at ungodly hours? Lila grinned, already heading down the street. Because that's when a magic happens. With a resigned sigh, Jake followed, the weight of their new bargain settling heavily on his shoulders. The night was far from over, and the key in Lila's pocket was just the beginning. The clock tower loomed ahead, its ancient face glowing faintly under the moonlight. The streets were eerily quiet, the only sound the distant hum of the city and the occasional drip of rainwater from the rooftops. Lila clutched the silver key tightly, her breath visible in the cold air. Jake squinted up at the tower, rubbing his arms. You sure this is the right place? Looks like one strong breeze could knock it over. Lila shot him a look. It stood here for 200 years. I think it'll survive one more night. Yeah, but will we? Jake muttered under his breath. Ignoring him, Lila marched toward the rusted gate, the key glinting in her palm. According to the legend, the silver key unlocks the door at the stroke of midnight, when the veil between worlds is thinnest. Jake checked his watch. It's 11:58. Cutting it close, aren't we? Lila grinned. Dramatic timing makes everything better. As the clock's gears groaned, signaling the approaching hour, Lila slid the key into the lock. It turned with a soft click, and the gate creaked open, revealing a spiral staircase winding into darkness. Jake hesitated. "You first." Lila rolled her eyes. "Oh, now you're a gentleman? Hey, if there's a monster, I'd rather it eat you first. Gives me time to run." Lila huffed, but stepped inside, the air thick with dust and the scent of old metal. The stairs groaned under their weight as they climbed, the only light coming from Jake's flickering flashlight. Halfway up, a sudden clang echoed through the tower. Jake nearly dropped the light. What was that? Lila paused, listening. Probably just the wind. Wind doesn't sound like a metal pipe falling. Before she could reply, a shadow darted across the stairs above them. Lila's breath hitched. Okay, that wasn't the wind. Jake grabbed her arm. "We should leave. Right now." But Lila pulled free, determination flashing in her eyes. "No way. We're too close." She sprinted up the remaining steps, Jake cursing as he followed. At the top, they burst into a circular chamber, the massive clock mechanism ticking ominously in the center. And there, standing in the moonlight, was a figure in a long coat. Vance. Jake's jaw dropped. "You gotta be kidding me." Vance smirked, twirling a second silver key between his fingers. "Took you long enough." Lila's eyes narrowed. "You lied to us. You had the real key all along." Vance shrugged. "Had to be sure you were serious. And now that you are," he gestured to the clock face. "Midnight's here. You ready to see what this thing really does?" The clock's bell tolled, the sound vibrating through the chamber. The gears shuddered, and the hands began to spin backward. A blinding light erupted from the mechanism, and the air itself seemed to ripple. Jake shielded his eyes. What the hell is happening? Lila gasped as the walls around them dissolved, replaced by swirling colors and fragments of unfamiliar landscapes. "It's a gateway." Vance's voice cut through the chaos, his tone deadly serious. "Welcome to the crossroads, where every choice you make changes everything." Jake grabbed Lila's arm as the ground beneath them shifted. "We are so not getting paid enough for this." Lila laughed, exhilarated. "Who cares about money? We just found the door to everywhere." And with that, the lights swallowed them whole. The world snapped back into focus with a dizzying lurch, and Jake stumbled forward, barely catching himself on what felt like rough stone. The air smelled different here, earthy and thick with a metallic tang underneath. He blinked hard, his vision swimming. "Okay," he groaned, rubbing his temples. "Next time, warn me before we get sucked into a cosmic washing machine." Lila was already on her feet, spinning in a slow circle, her eyes wide with wonder. "Jake, look." They stood in the center of a vast, circular chamber, its walls lined with countless arched doorways, each one shimmering with a different hue. Some pulsed with warm golden light, others flickered like storm clouds, and a few radiated an eerie, unnatural glow. Above them, the sky, if it even was a sky, swirled with colors Jake couldn't name. Vance brushed past them, his coat flaring dramatically. The crossroads. Every door leads somewhere else. Someone else, if you're feeling brave. Jake swallowed hard. "You've been here before?" Vance smirked. "Once or twice. Didn't stick around long. This place has a way of changing people." Lila stepped toward the nearest door, her fingers hovering just shy of its glowing surface. "So these are all real? Other worlds? Other times?" Vance nodded. "And if you step through the wrong one, good luck getting back." Jake grabbed Lila's wrist before she could touch it. "Hold on. We didn't sign up for interdimensional tourism. We came for answers about the silver key, about why people are willing to kill for it." Vance's smirk faded. "Because it's not just a key. It's a choice." He pointed to the center of the chamber, where a pedestal stood, carved with the same symbols as the key. Put the key there, and you can rewrite one moment in your life. Just one. But be careful. Change the wrong thing, and you might not like what comes after. Lila's breath caught. "You mean undo something?" Vance's expression darkened. "Or make it worse. Trust me, I've seen it happen." Jake crossed his arms. "So why help us? What's in it for you?" For the first time, Vance looked uncertain, because I tried it once, and I've been trying to fix what I broke ever since. A heavy silence settled over them, broken only by the faint hum of the doors. Lila turned back to the pedestal, her voice quiet but firm. We have to try. If there's even a chance to fix what happened to my family. Jake grabbed her shoulder. Lila, think. You don't even know how this works. What if you make things worse? She met his gaze, her eyes blazing. What if I make them better? Before Jake could argue, a new voice cut through the chamber. Cold, smooth, and dripping with amusement. Oh, please do try. I'd love to see how this ends. They whirled around. A woman stood in the archway behind. If you insist. And with that, the chamber erupted into chaos. The chamber exploded into motion as Elena's enforcers lunged forward, blades glinting in the eerie light of the crossroads. Jake barely had time to duck as a knife whistled past his ear, embedding itself in the stone wall behind him. Okay, definitely not getting paid enough for this, he shouted, grabbing Lila's arm and yanking her behind the pedestal just as another blade struck where she'd been standing. Vance was already moving, flipping a dagger from his sleeve and parrying an attacker's strike with a metallic clang. Told you she was trouble, he called over his shoulder. Lila's fingers tightened around the silver key, her breath coming fast. We can't fight them all. There's too many. Jake scanned the room desperately. Then we run. Pick a door, any door. Elena's laughter cut through the chaos. Oh, do try. Let's see which world chews you up first. She snapped her fingers, and another wave of fighters advanced. Vance kicked an assailant back and spun toward them, his eyes wild. The key, Lila, use it now. Before they... A gunshot cracked through the air, and Vance jerked as blood bloomed on his shoulder. He staggered, teeth gritted in pain. Lila gasped. Vance! Jake didn't hesitate. He snatched the key from Lila's hand and slammed it into the pedestal. Do it. Change something. Anything. The moment the key connected, the world rippled. The air itself seemed to vibrate, and for a heartbeat, everything froze. Elena's sneer, the enforcer's mid-lunge, even the dust motes hanging motionless in the air. Then a voice, not a sound, but a presence, filled the space around them. What moment would you rewrite? Lila's hands trembled as she pressed them against the pedestal. The night my parents died. Save them. Please. And the cost. Jake's head whipped toward her. Cost? Lila, wait. But it was too late. The chamber dissolved in a burst of blinding light, and the last thing Jake heard was Elena's furious scream before the crossroads, and everything in it vanished. Jake opened his eyes to sunlight. Real, normal sunlight. He was sprawled on a park bench, birds chirping overhead, the smell of fresh grass thick in the air. For a long moment, he just stared, his brain struggling to catch up. Then his phone buzzed. A text from Lila. Meet me at the cafe. Now, you won't believe this. Heart pounding, Jake sprinted across town, nearly colliding with pedestrians. He burst into the cafe and froze. Lila sat at their usual table, grinning. And beside her, two people Jake had only ever seen in photos. Lila's parents, alive. She leapt up, pulling Jake into a crushing hug. It worked, she whispered, her voice shaking. They're here. Jake's throat tightened, but as he looked past her, his blood ran cold. Across the street, leaning against a lamppost with a knowing smirk, was Vance. And in his hand, glinting in the sunlight, was another silver key. Lila followed Jake's gaze and stiffened. No, Vance winked, twirling the key once before slipping it into his pocket. Then he turned and vanished into the crowd. Jake exhaled slowly. This isn't over, is it? Lila's grip on his arm tightened. Not even close. And as the cafe buzzed around them, the weight of what they'd done, and what was still coming, settled over them like a storm on the horizon. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and as always, keep the last light burning.